Hello, this is Pedro again from Pythalista with one more video to you. So what I'd like to discuss in this video is talk about my journey to being zero in programming to be able to be called a software developer, like being able to develop an app, solve a problem, and even work as a software developer. So I think the best way is to share my experience, and that's the purpose of this video. But before I go any further, please like the video so it can get more views, can reach more people, and also don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the bell. I'll start like telling a story, and I'll go through and make some reflections along the way. I have some notes here in front of me, but I'm also be saying things off the cuff as I go through it. So where it all gets started. First, I don't have a computer science background, and also I didn't start early. Usually people start programming with like 10 years old, even though when I was a kid in the 80s, I did learn how to program in BASIC, and I had a PC home where, like, you know, those green screen where I wrote some programs. I bought some magazines, and I even attended some basic weekends lessons, and I was able to understand the basic programming and do some loops and some programming. I even remember when I was probably 10 years old, I developed like a calculator that you would do the 4 operations, but I couldn't call myself a software engineer. So, and I really took it seriously late in life. I was 39, even over 40 when I really took it seriously. So let's talk a little bit of my background. My background is finance, so I went to study business, and within business I chose the finance. And for the start of my career, maybe for the first 10 years, I was working doing like Excel spreadsheets and crunching numbers and writing what they call visibility studies. So a company wanted to invest some money and they wanted to justify that investment, and I was doing that in Excel. I didn't use programming then. I know that Excel has got VBA. I learned the very basic, and if there was something that I could automate, I was using VBA for that. And then how this progressed to programming, how I moved from Excel to programming. Because I was crunching numbers, and usually data from the company like sales data was in a database, I started to write some SQL queries and get data into even Microsoft Access or SQL Server Management Studio. And at that time, the year was 2015, 2016. That would be somewhere like 7 years ago. Power BI was coming out, and for someone that was used with Excel and pivot tables, it was a very natural movement. And then for that, Microsoft had a language called DAX, which is Data Analysis Expression, which is not a programming language. I don't think you can call it, but it's basically like Excel functions adapted to do calculations. You could do some variables and solve some problems, but the main purpose is to do calculations of measures in Power BI, and the ultimate purpose is to produce dashboards. All right, I learned that. I was working as a BI developer doing Power BI dashboards, and then came the opportunity to become a data scientist. And then that's when I really, for the first time and seriously, wanted to learn a programming language. And then I had two options. I had R and Python. And for some reason that I don't remember, I chose R. And then I started to learn, and then went to Udemy and bought some courses. And I can remember that I bought courses from the Super Data Science by Kirill Eremenko, and there was another guy that I forgot the name, and there was a Jose Portilla, which was very good in R, and also Python. And okay, and focus on the R course. I took the A to Z machine learning from Super Data Science, and then I remember that there was two tracks. You could do R or Python, and then I chose to listen all the R lectures, and I step by step on how to program that. And then I was kind of like getting the taste and getting used to it, and even started to apply that knowledge in predictive analytics and machine learning at my job, and had some good outcome, and I was kind of putting that into practice. But I was not working as a data scientist, but my goal was to work as a data scientist. And then back then I knew that I needed to learn more, and then I enrolled myself in one of those online programs to become a data scientist. And that was kind of my first shift. I realized that Python was much more popular than R in sites like Kaggle, where they do data science competitions, and also deep learning, which was a more advanced technique to machine learning. It was the libraries more advanced were in Python. And then okay, I'm gonna now switch to Python, and then I enrolled in this training course called DataQuest. They were one of the main competitors of DataCamp, which I think it's more famous. And then I took the data science track, but it was focused on Python. They also taught things like SQL, which I already knew, but I got even better. But they taught something that are very useful for programming, like Git, and also a little bit of like command line and Linux, which is you use to run programs. All right, and then I finally found a job as a data scientist, and then I started to use Python on my day-to-day, but I noticed that the demand was much more in data engineering and automation. And then I kind of like, okay, I started to explore the part of Python that was more related to programming, in the sense of more classical software engineering. And then I started to learn web frameworks. So I remember that I really fall in love, and I even found more interesting that than the data science thing. I did a Flask tutorial from Corey Schaefer in YouTube, which was like about 20 videos that you would build an app, like a real website with back-end, front-end, and it was really, really interesting. And that thing kind of got me hooked. And then more and more I started to explore, and then I found out that I needed to also learn front end. That's when I started to learn JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. And then I was kind of completely involved, and there was even a project in consulting where we were developing a Flask application. And then I started to get more into the programming per se, like web frameworks, and then I learned Fast API. But I still like, to be honest, even though I was working and doing some projects on the side, and I was also doing some tutorials, I was not feeling confident. I was having like imposter syndrome. And then there was one community that I joined that really made difference, which was PyBites. They call Code Challenges Platform. So these, there were two things that are really helped me in this community. One was the you would do exercise and solve real Python problems, and then there was a nice community of people supporting you. And then by solving those challenges, I got more fluence with Python, and I also started to study like Python and programming books. And then and because I learned a little bit of front end and some JavaScript framework, like I learned Vue and also React, and then I started to build end-to-end apps. Like first as side projects, I would probably write an API in Fast API or Flask, Django, one of those three languages. I would connect to a database either in the cloud like storage, and I'll put like everything in containers and deploy in Linux machines. And then I also learned like networking and security, SSL certificates. So I started to do things from end to end. And then at this stage I decided to abandon the path of data science, and then I really wanted to work in programming in software engineering. But work-wise, I was working as I was managing a department, but I wanted to become more of a data engineering because I really liked BI. So, and then there was one project where I could say, now can I be called myself a software engineer? Am I a software engineer? I needed a project where I could demonstrate that I could do an application end-to-end, like infrastructure, front-end, back-end, and be in production and real people using. And then there was an opportunity to automate a workflow in my wife's job. And then I developed this front-end React app and back-end Django using Django REST framework. And those were deployed in Linux servers, in Docker containers. I had CI/CD automation to deploy those containers, and then I had like dev and prod environments. And then there was a moment when I said, okay, I'm really a software developer. And also at work, I work in a project where I worked with other consultants and the client to develop a Python package to solve a problem to the client. We did like CI/CD automation and deployment, version controlling of that code base, and then we improved a lot like performance and all those things. So basically, so the takeaways here is that it doesn't happen overnight. So for me, it took about, I would say, 4 years from nothing to say, okay, I'm really can be called myself a software engineer. And then also along the way, you change minds, because at the beginning, I was pursuing data scientist, and then I ended up like working as a data engineer. But from a data engineer, I also build solutions like serverless functions and automation, and also have this side project where I could develop like an end-to-end infrastructure. So that's about it. I just wanted to share my story here. I hope you like. If you have any questions, please put on the comments below. And thank you for watching if you got to this stage of the video. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and click the bell. Don't forget that. And then so my channel can grow and more people can watch it. Thank you very much.